Welcome to Manchester Metropolitan University's Physiotherapy video podcast. My name is Marak Mishra, and today we are going to discuss about the physiological response to exercise and how to safely prescribe exercises to our clients. Before we start delving into the types of exercise, here are a few brain teasers. Just have a look at these questions and see if you can answer those. These questions are actually relevant to this lecture. So take your time. In this session, we are going to explore how the respiratory system responds to exercise, how the cardiovascular system responds to exercise, and what are the indicators of exercise intensity, and how do you predict the rate of work and how is it measured. It is important to understand how human body gets the energy to fuel exercises. There are three types of systems that basically fuel the exercises, and those are called ATP PCR or ATP phosphocreatinin system, lactic acid system, and the third one is called the oxidative system. Now, there was a question about the amount of time taken for 100-meter sprint. For men, it is less than 10 seconds, and for women, it is a little bit more than 10 seconds, but it's around 10 seconds on an average. So, how do the athletes get energy to run so fast? Now, this kind of maximal sprinting effort, requires energy to be used straight away by muscles. And how does the energy get produced? Actually, this energy is not being produced, it is always there stored in the body in the form of ATP. And if it is not in the form of ATP, it is in the form of phosphocreatinin, and a very quick chemical reaction produces ATP out of phosphocreatinin. Now, this is a very fast system. So you'd say, why does the system last for just 10 seconds? Now, the important limiting factor for not having too much of ATP storage in the body is that ATP is a large molecule, and in order to store sufficient amount of ATP for fueling maximal exercise for an hour, we need to have the size of a dinosaur, if not an elephant. Now, evolutionarily, it is not nice to have a large body. The large body comes with its limitations. Hence, we have got about 10 seconds of energy storage that can fuel us for maximal effort. But after 10 seconds, what happens? Where do we get the energy from? Now, then comes the lactic acid system. Now, lactic acid system is also a very fast system of producing the energy molecule of the body, which is the adenosine triphosphate. So here a glucose molecule very quickly breaks down without the presence of oxygen to produce two ATP molecules. Now, there is no oxygen involved in this process, and that's why this system is called the anaerobic system, the energy system that does not utilize oxygen. Now, again, you can do maximal exercise for up to 2.5 minutes to 3 minutes, depending upon your level of fitness, without utilizing oxygen. Mind you, all the time you are breathing in, but the oxygen takes its time to reach the muscle where energy is required. And because you're not utilizing oxygen, you build up something called as lactic acid, and this lactic acid is quite toxic, and if you carry on doing maximal exercises, what happens is that you get pain in the muscle, cramps, and then you have to stop. So the limiting factor to The anaerobic system or the lactic acid system is accumulation of lactic acid. Now, as I said before, this is a fast system, provides immediate energy molecule for activities, so it can sustain maximal activity. But you cannot keep on continuing maximal activity beyond a certain point of time. Then comes the oxidative system. In fact, oxidative system utilizes oxygen, and in the presence of oxygen, a glucose molecule produces a net of 32 ATPs. A net, there are more than 32 ATPs produced in the process, but actually some of them are consumed in the process of this production. So the net production is about 32 ATP molecules. So it's a large number of ATP molecules from one glucose molecule. So hence it is efficient, but it takes time. It is a slow process, but it is more efficient in the sense that it produces more number of molecules of ATP as compared to the lactic acid system. Now, because the oxygen has to reach the muscle in order for releasing all these ATP molecules, it is a slow process, and hence you cannot maintain maximal level of activity. Now, so that's why aerobic system is essentially a sub-maximal level of activity. Now that you understand the different systems, let's have some examples of different activities using these energy systems. Long distance cycling, jogging, long distance swimming, these are all examples of aerobic activities. We all know that. So these exercises actually utilize the aerobic system, and these are submaximal exercises. On the other hand, activities like sprint, weightlifting requires maximal effort, hence they utilize ATP PCR system or the lactic acid or the anaerobic system. Now we'll explore the physiological response of the respiratory system to exercise. At rest, we are breathing normally. It's not a deep breath, it's a relaxed breath. But once you start doing exercises, you note that the rate of respiration increases and the depth also increases. By that, what we mean is that we breathe more number of times per minute, and we breathe deeper. Why do we do that? The muscles require oxygen, and when you are doing any exercise, you breathe in to provide that increased need for oxygen. So that's why when you breathe deeper and more number of times, you have got more ability to provide increased amount of oxygen to the tissue. If you look at the graph here, you can see that with increase in intensity of exercise, there is initially a gradual increase in respiratory rate, but as the exercises become strenuous, that means it becomes very hard, then there is a steep increase in both respiratory rate and depth. The long-term response of the respiratory system to exercise is that there is increased efficiency of the ventilatory muscles. By that, what physiologists mean is that the respiratory muscles don't have to work as hard as in untrained individuals to breathe in the same amount of oxygen. And also there is increased thoracic expansion, so your chest expands more, so that's why you are able to breathe in more amount of air per breath, hence your efficiency increases. Sometimes there is abnormal response of breathing to exercises. You must have all felt if you're putting in strong amount of effort, then you start feeling breathless. In some people, the breathlessness is more than other in response to exercise, and this is called dyspnea. This could be because of several reasons. It could be because of inherent cardiorespiratory problems, but it could be an issue with fitness as well. The other phenomenon that may occur is called the hyperventilation. We understand that during exercise the oxygen demand of the body increases. However, if you are breathing more amount of air than it is required, you are suddenly increasing the oxygen concentration in the blood and eliminating the carbon dioxide, which can lead to devastating consequences. So hyperventilation, although initially may seem to be a natural response to exercise, high intensity exercise especially, can lead to many problems later on. One of the common issues with hyperventilation is that you feel dizzy and you faint. Now let's explore the cardiovascular response to exercise. At rest, your blood is basically being pumped into the visceral organs, especially the heart, the lungs, and the intestines, as well as the liver. Once you start doing exercise, your muscles of the periphery, that means the upper limb, lower limb, and to some extent the trunk, require oxygen, and that's why the blood, the richly oxygenated blood being pumped from the heart, has to reach these muscles, and this is done at the cost of the blood supply to the viscera. So the blood is basically shunted from the visceral organs to the muscles. And as you increase the intensity of exercise, it is very common to note that your heart starts pounding. That means the heart rate increases and the stroke volume increases. So heart rate is the number of beats per minute, so that will increase with exercise, and stroke volume is the amount of blood that is pumped with one contraction of the heart. And because the heart is being filled with more amount of blood, it can pump out more amount of blood. So altogether, the pumping effect of the heart increases and the rate increases, so the amount of blood pumped per minute is going to increase.